Okay, hi there, guys. Just let me know if you can hear me. And then we'll get on to it. Sorry about the mess. All good, fantastic. All right, guys, sorry about having to come on today. Been a bit of a mess with this internet. Um, yeah, I just wasn't speaking, that's all. I've had to try to hook up. So what happened from yesterday was pretty much, I thought it was all to do with YouTube. It seems that it was actually the internet again. So I'm having consistent internet problems, but this time it wasn't. I've got ADSL and I've got a modem that goes through 4G. And as a backup, I've got my mobile phone as a hotspot. So it seems to be I'm going through my mobile phone at the moment. I don't know if anyone knows much about internet speeds, but my ADSL is coming in at about 5 megabits per second download, 4 to 5, which is rubbish. You get about 70 or so on NBN, supposedly, as long as it works okay. The 4G I've got on my modem coming through 4G network is about 5 or 6, but it's more stable. So that's why I've been using that. But that was at about 1 yesterday, which was just something was wrong there. And then I go through my mobile hotspot and check the speed just directly onto my phone. It was pretty much around the same, 2 or 3 or so. That's why nothing was working. It was just the internet coming through 4G. So you get on the phone with them and they have no idea what's going on. You have to explain to the IT department what's happening. And for some reason today, it looks like the speeds are picked up. But the problem is my download speed's around 12 now. It seems better than it has been, but the upload speed's half a megabit, and it should be above 1. So I don't know if anyone can see. This is what I use to transmit, and you can see the bottom right corner. It's around 3,000. It's much better through your hotspot. Problem is, it costs you a fortune in data to get that running. So it's been an absolute kerfuffle. So I'm actually on my laptop now, plugged into the TV through a HDMI cable, and I'm looking at my TV with Spark on it, is what you can see there. So hopefully if it doesn't drop out, we should be streaming fine. So far, so good. It's actually working okay. I had it on my computer, but it just wouldn't. The uploads were horrible. So I think the better upload speeds are on my through the hotspot, which I don't understand. So it's good to know that good old Optus, they don't muck around. They make sure they cap you left, right, and centre how much you spend. Yeah. So I'm looking at NBN. They're just getting hooked up now. If I spend about the same as what I've got my ADSL upstairs, which we barely use, we just use it for the TV really. It was more as a backup. I should be spending the same, getting around 70, I think 70, 60, 70 megabits per second, supposedly, or 50 or so. So I'll be spending a bit more to make sure, but from what I've heard, even that can have problems. So we'll see how we go. But anyway, hopefully everything works fine. I'm just going to keep an eye on it for a while just to see it doesn't drop out. But so far, so good. If I'm slow to respond, then you'll know why. I'm just checking through bits and pieces. So what do we got? I'll get over to here. Let's get to the ASX. What I was going to talk about yesterday was probably a bit more. I'll see if I can get it up here. Trading view. So I wanted to go through just that kerfuffle what we saw on the open yesterday. And I was talking to someone yesterday, I think it was morning before I was trying to get onto the stream, about what you could be looking at, potentially what to look at on the open. But for some, now I'm a genius because I've got it on my other computer, haven't I? And here we go, trading view. I wanted to get trading view up. I should get knocked off. So I wanted to show you the Dow. So what the story was yesterday, we know that the US was up quite strong on, here we go, I'm getting it up now. The US is up quite strong Friday. Finished off the week with a bang. They had good employment figures, employment data, what they were focused on anyway. Payroll numbers pushed the market up. I think their unemployment rate dropped. But I think the main focus, what will be going forward, is more wage growth and things like that. If that's kicking off, then the economy's doing well. So it's all good saying is more number of the jobs are going up, but unless a bit of wage growth, it's not going to kick off in inflation. If people don't have more to spend, basically, and inflation is a thing that they'll be looking at for rate rises going forward. Well, potentially. So at the moment, the Fed is sitting on the fence. Basically, we're not going down. We're not going to drop rates. There's no need to because inflation's in check. Employment data is coming out good. Is in line with what we expect. So really, it's just watching what these inflationary figures do. Even though employment's going up, it's still about wage growth and things like that. So even in saying all that, the numbers still gave the market a bit of a kick on Friday night, which was great. So coming in when I normally will have a look at the report, doing the report, I look at that Sunday, I put out all my charts and everything, and then I finish it off Monday morning. And I looked at it Monday morning and saw a news headline about Trump. Trump on Sunday was talking up raising tariffs. You go, oh, no. If he's going to go from 10% to 25%, you can pretty much kiss goodbye any sort of positivity in the market. And of course, going and looking at what the Dow was doing on the open, the currencies, they got poleaxed. So the Dow at that stage was down about 600 points from where it closed on Friday night. So we were expected by looking at the close. So what I'd normally do is look at the close on Friday and see, so where it closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what the SPY was doing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what level it was at that stage, and then looking at where it closed the early hours, so in the aftermarket session or the overnight session, which was up about 40 points, I think. So SPY rallied during the European session and the US session around 40 points from where it closed at 4 o'clock. So it's a good indication to see roughly, and then you can assume, okay, at 4 o'clock when the ASX closed, the SPY has gone up about 40 points. You can assume that the ASX was going to open up 30 to 40 points in positive territory because of the SPY, following the lead. So a lot of the times, even when the US goes up, the SPY can go sideways overnight, and it's a good indication of what the market's looking at and what they're poised to do. I mean, and even then, it just means if no one's willing to buy the SPY up, you only got, and that's no pros trying to hedge. That's no, generally if they're bullish on the markets overall and the US kicks off overnight, they're going to use the futures to hedge. Potentially if they're trying to get into positions, or they can muck around the futures quite a bit. And if it doesn't move, there's a good reason why it's not moving up. They've got no need to hedge. It could be still, where the US is going up and we're going down, which was happening for a few days there. So when you wake up and you see the futures actually kicked off, it's quite a good little feeling, knowing that potentially the ASX 200 was going to open up that equivalent amount, like we're saying, 30 to 40 points. Now, when you come in and you can check out where the futures on the Dow was at that stage, and they've down 600, God, it was just looking at where we were going to finish up on the ASX. If I can get this across here, this is, let's see, E-mini. So you can see where they closed up here. Let's come through, okay. Yep, they closed up here, say 26.5, and then that was yesterday's opened at about 8 o'clock, I think, in the morning, 8 o'clock. Pretty much got slammed, and it got all the way down to about, just a touch under about 26. So you're looking at a nearly 600 point drop, nearly 670, 680 points. It's about from 520. Yeah, close to on the lows. It was nearly down to about 600 points. So it got absolutely slammed. So basically, when I was looking at it Monday morning, you could see this price action. And if you go through, look at crude oil, everything was opening down. Copper was opening down too. Gold opened up, I think. It pushed up. That wasn't too significant. It didn't kick off that much. So that was handy. But then crude, anything that's sort of linked to, get rid of all this, linked to what's happening in the economy, crude got smashed as well. It got smashed, nearly cracked $60 a barrel from somewhere around 62. So that's a good move down on crude too. I mean, forget about this. We'll talk about this in a second, this sort of rally. But that's not, the way it was opening yesterday, you can just pretty much see that the market was going to struggle. And of course, this is the ASX. You can see, where were we, intraday action. Let's just see. So that was a close on, was it Friday, around here on the ASX. You expected it to open up nice and strong somewhere around, 70 mark up here, which is pretty much up towards these previous highs from Wednesday. Instead, we got slammed just down because of what the US is doing. Now, it's two things. It's just if you can go through that process of just trying to check out, I mean, it sounds complicated. I don't know who else looks at the market like that, but just to see what the future's doing, because if they're mucking around the US futures, there's going to be a reason they're trying to push it, or they're doing something, and that's going to have an effect on how our market opens. Now, if it's all fine, the Dow futures pretty much come in line to where they closed. They're not pushing down or pushing up significantly. It means that the ASX, between when they close at around 8 o'clock in the morning, or 7 o'clock in the morning, sorry, or 7 a.m., when they open back up at 10, 3 hours later, nothing significant is coming out in the way of news or to push that market down. So a lot of people can get caught. They think, if they weren't watching the open, and I know we were seeing a few people send emails across, why is my market spiked down? Why this, why that? It's because they don't realise that over the weekend that Trump's come out and talking up tariffs again, meaning that all of a sudden what we thought was going to be supportive of the market, and we're going to have a bit more sound coming through as they're doing a bit of work outside. So what was going to be supportive of the market in the way of a deal is getting knocked on the head, or the potential that that's going to either extend, or they're going to come in. There's going to be a bigger kerfuffle if China don't come to some sort of agreement with the US. It just means that things are going to get dragged out. It's worse for the global economy. It's worse for the US. Worse pretty much for everyone. And that's why that you can see the reaction that we got when we pretty much got, where's my mouse, slammed down to, on the open to 62.50. We're down nearly 100 points yesterday at one stage. Then we, made our way back, which is fine. And we pretty much made back the losses. At the moment, we're up 55 points. But we still haven't made back when they back up to these highs where the US was trading. So it's interesting. And if anyone, if you've got any more questions on the way to look at it, just so you've got a bit of a heads up, don't get too heavily involved on the open if the market is looking like it's going to get slammed. And if you don't know that by just going through that minor process of seeing where the US is, seeing where we closed and where we closed with regards to 4 o'clock close on the futures, what do the futures do overnight, and just building that picture coming into the 10 o'clock open on the ASX, then if you know everything's looking good, then you could probably be a bit more bullish. But in the scenario of yesterday, it's better off to stand aside, make sure your stops are in place. If you use hard stops, or make sure you know where you're going to get out if you're going to get slammed on a few stocks, because you know that pretty much the open is going to be all retail, and all retail are going to be is fearful more than anything. So I'd suggest that where's my mouse again? Oh, lost my mouse. Here we go. So that open there, the pros, the fundies, they'll all know what's going to happen. And if you look at the bigger picture, you go, okay, what is Trump doing? He's pretty much, I think more than anything, he was trying to pressure into something happening, pressure into China, pressure China into hurry up and make a decision and come into some sort of deal. Maybe they were doing okay. I think China pulled back. They started reneging on an agreement they already made with the US. So that's why Trump started talking about, okay, we're going to raise tariffs again. But whether he's actually being serious and going, bang, we'll raise them from 10% to 25% over the 200 billion. I don't know when he's meant to do it, Thursday or Friday, or by the end of this week, whether he's actually going to enforce that or whether he's just trying to talk it up to force them into doing something is yet to be seen. But I think a lot of people last night, the way the market reacted, the way it reacted today, the US pretty much bounced straight back again from the open. I think they opened a bit weaker than bounced straight back. Let's just look at the Dow. Here we go. Where am I? When am I looking at crude? I want to go back to the mini, don't I? So you can see the way it's pumped down. It's been pretty much on the open from 11:30. It was holding down here, but bang, straight back up again, pretty much to where it closed Friday. This candle here, this is on a 30-minute. That was pretty much 5 minutes straight after the open, and you'd assume that most of these longs are in place have just been squeezed out. They just stopped out on the open. On the close of the night session, just getting out because you never know what's going to happen. But anyway, that market, very bullish through the session. It just started off in a very low place. So that action there suggests to me that, maybe it is a bit of hot air Trump's talking, and we'll see how this market plays out in the coming days. But I think there's going to be a bit of volatility still for the next few days. So it's something just to keep an eye on. Does that all make sense there, guys? Just what I'm trying to explain about the open. I thought it was worthwhile talking about. And I guess you can hear the blower outside. But all in all, look at the price action on the daily. That's still on the daily. If we just go back to six months, it's not bearish at all. And this all plays into. Actually, let me get back up. There's one more thing I need, don't I? Oh no! Just bear with me a sec, guys. Give me 1 minute. Figured out my battery is now running low, which is handy. I'll have to charge it. Otherwise, we'll switch off. Okay, we're still there. Beautiful. All right. There you go. So as you can see, I'm well organized today. All right. So where was I? So that's all good. So we're looking at, this is what I want. I wanted the, oh God, drawing tool. I don't know. It's got to be here somewhere. I've used it lots. There we go. Sketch. So what I want to do, which screen's going to take that screen? Good. So what I like to look at still is, we've still got, the market is, to me, is still bullish. Well, if you take that properly, I sort of discount this big blow off, but if you go from, across these lows, we've come down, and I still think that we're doing quite well there, and you're pretty much through that zone there. So whether it was a great opportunity, I mean, still, we don't know just yet, it was a great opportunity to buy yesterday, or whether we're going to see some more, serious selling action, then we'll see how it goes. ASX SPY 200. Does that make sense to you guys? So, and what is good to see is, we always go on about these two legs, a bit of a pop up to the highs, and this secondary move down, it's really cleaned out a few traders. So whether or not that yesterday was it's just the market taking the opportunity to clear out a few late buys before we start a new leg up, or before we start holding higher lows and continue up through that 64 zone up here, or whether we're going to come crashing down. At the moment, we still don't know. Nothing has played out. I suggest once we get through, if we press down from here, we'll start chopping around here without taking out the highs at 64. Just say we bounce back up here and then we start doing this type of thing, some lower highs, then I'll be a bit concerned that, especially after we break through, say back, if we get down through 62.50, potentially these lows, off some lower highs, then that I would expect this leg could be in for a decent correction. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Again, nothing has played out just yet. I don't mind the way we are reacting back up today, pretty much to close up to where we finished on Friday at the moment. I think that's it's a healthy sign. Everything to me, even my stochastics, this sell-off here is really dragged out a few traders without breaking any key level here. It hasn't broken the anchor. I'd say that anchor's down here at 61.75. So we could easily break through there, chop around, and then push back up. But I think if this happens and we get through 62.50, I'd be on guard, because we can come down and test that anchor. And if we get a higher low off that 61.75 zone, great. If we don't, we could come screaming through that level and pretty much do what we did. That was way back here. Let me just try to get that down. best fit what we did here. We come screaming through and then get a secondary move down. This is what obviously a lot of the bears are talking up the market, this, that, and the other. But the fact that we're not doing it, it's got to be a sign that it is still bullish. And like we said a few times, maybe discounting this really sudden move down through December. And don't forget that liquidity is low, volume's low, people are on holidays, all that sort of stuff. And it's easy to bully. And that's the same thing when you look at what happened on the open yesterday with the crude oil, with copper, with the Dow. It's opened up. Most of the world's asleep at that stage. We hadn't even got up and running just yet. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. So the volumes are very thin. And then the currency moves, we had still, Japan was on a holiday that day. Later on, the UK, London was closed as well, closed for a holiday. So a lot of this could be bullied. You know that if there's a whole lot of buyers out there, if someone wants to buy it, they can easily, I'm not being, how do you say? It's not was a theory, skeptical, I guess I'm trying to say. The market can be bullied quite easily when it's thin. And it's not hard to tick off a few stops, really clean out the market on that move, 600-point move on the Dow futures. It's just cleaned out a lot. And if it's hovering down there, you know what's going to happen on the open. Again, the retail traders are going to get all nervous. It's the end of the world. All the bears are going to be, all the raging bears are going to be clapping it. And then, potentially putting on some short positions. So you're just going to get this plethora of people facing down or in sold positions or in short positions. And don't forget all that build up of short positions because of the negative, 600 point down, the negative mood of the market can easily be fueled to turn around and rally back up again and just take them all back out again with a good little rally. So there's, at the moment, if you look at the ASX, I think we probably could have a bit of a work to do around here, around the 663 mark. And for me, until, if we hold up around there, it's bullish. And this could really lead to, because we've broken these highs previously on that little spike up, broken the highs. We've done that 2-leg down that I like to see. We've had that little washout to 62.50 yesterday. And if we hover around here, that for me could be a nice bullish sign, and we could really get some oomph. Get rid of all this, all right? Really could get some oomph to really clear through that 6,400 mark. And if you're looking at this monthly, that could easily project, and we could be looking easily up to the highs at 68 or to new highs. It'd be interesting to see what happens from here. High, low on the monthly, everything's looking great. The weekly, a bit of a wash out of these previous buys, this big move down. So we have, over the last few months, cleaned out a lot of buyers out of the market. And as most people know, we're not heavily into the market at the moment. It's really hard. You look at these shares, you look at the index itself, and we're just saying anything could happen. We are getting a bit stretched up here. You can see buyers to push it from these lows, off the lows at Christmas up to the highs at 64, about 1,000-point rally without any pullback. It's taken a fair bit of effort, and we're only really up into those highs when you're viewing it from that weekly chart. So there is that argument that it could easily tip over. But until the daily starts to show the cracks, which it's not just yet, even after yesterday's action, after all the fear from yesterday, it doesn't mean we're going to sell mode just yet. It still means looking for those quality setups. In saying that, there's not a lot of quality setups that I'm seeing just at this stage. In the way your daily charts, on your stocks, individual stocks, and that's why we've got two. CDA is just starting to kick off now, is going okay. VTG, we've got. Oh, are we back? I think we just dropped out. We should be back, hopefully. That was the internet. Okay. So yeah, this is VTG. You can see starting to roll over here, but potentially if we do something like that, a bit of a washout, I'm expecting hopefully this can hold up at 160 and pop back up, take out the highs at 180, take a partial, away we go. We're still sitting above the entry at 55.5 at 162. I think these last few days have cleaned out a lot of traders, but again, we'll just have to wait and see. But if I was to enter that now, I wouldn't enter that just yet. I want to really be entering off a higher low, something like, if you can see, something like this, or maybe this if the pop up, pull back, consolidate the lows, start to go higher low with the MAs rising, I'd rather enter like that. So as a new trader, I wouldn't go near VTG just yet. But since we've got it open, might as well manage it the best we can. But yeah, I'm not seeing a lot that is setting up. I mean, potentially BXB could be one, popping through these highs at, was it 1240 or so? If we go to that weekly chart, what's it showing the weekly? It is on the rise in the weekly. If we consolidate, I'd rather see this consolidate a bit longer around the 12 mark, sit on top of these MAs, and then pop up and see if we can get the entry from the daily chart. But again, that's coming. That's the top. It's coming up to that resistance zone around 13. So if that's the case, don't forget we're trying to pick something that is coming from a good base on your weekly or daily. It's starting to. You're at the beginning of potentially a move on the weekly move. Something that's just is popped up, taken out a few resistance zones, has. Let me just go back to here. Yeah, okay. So we want something. So if this is your weekly move down, we want something that's maybe about here. So we will. This is what I'm ideally looking for. Something that's going to give us an entry around that zone. After we pop through the anchor, we've had a pullback just to clean out a few of these buys in this little pop up here. Clean them out. You've got your high low. The MAs, you're sitting on top of the MAs. If I can draw that, the MAs maybe something like this. If you can see, we're sitting on top of the MAs, cross it, and then away you go. Ideally, that's what I'd be looking for. I'm just not finding a hell of a lot like that. Even if it's on the daily, it means that you're potentially at the start of a leg up, and you're not really too concerned about the resistance zones that are coming into it. It just means it's a high probability trade. Whereas potentially what we just looked at BXB on the weekly, we're coming up to this $13 zone. We've come off $9. It's at 12, roughly 12 now. Is it a high probability that it's going to move up through 13, especially with a lot of the headwinds that are still in play on the ASX, in US and that? Because we're not saying that on the ASX we are heading higher. It's just we haven't broken down yet. So we've got to factor all that in. And you've got to stick with your plan until the daily rolls over and we're showing some weakness on the daily and potentially the weekly on the ASX. Then you want to be sticking to buys. So ideally, if this is the case and we start punching up to 13, we get in, we get long, and it has a pullback, then you get a lower high coming to play. Then you get the overall market maybe selling off a bit. Then this is going to be the first one to get knocked on the head. Whereas if you're getting nice and early, say you're getting something that's this zone and you've got a lot of buffer when you come out from the resistance zones, then that's ideally what you want. You want to get more up your sleeve, potentially if it does run out of steam. Oh, sorry, Darren, on the right-hand corner, I'll actually show you. So this is YouTube. On the right-hand corner, click on settings, quality. I could actually do the same. Go to 720. That should sharpen it up quite a bit. Now, we get this back across here. If that helps. If not, sorry. All right. So I hope all that makes sense there, guys. We seem to be ticking along nicely still. Put in any charts you want to have a look at, and we'll go through that. There's not much else I want to chat about, but I thought it's interesting what we saw yesterday on the open. That's worth noting. It's worth just checking out before you start putting more risk into the market. Just what the US is doing in the overnight session. What have they done after hours? Is it looking good? Are we looking positive? What's gold? All these sorts of things, because they get mucked around with. They do get played a bit after hours, and it's just interesting to see what's happening. And just remember, I know this sounds bad, but retail open the market, the pros will close the market. And if the market is getting, if there's a whole lot of retail that come in on the open, the market doesn't open up 40 points like you expect, but it's up only 5, they could turn around and get squeezed out quite quickly. All right. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Any questions, if I haven't covered it well enough, just let me know. Let's go here. So this is actually rare. I've just noticed this one. I know it's in the property and all that, but this is one, not so much on the daily as such. I would suggest it's got a fair bit of work to do. But if you go to the weekly, it's still holding this nice long trend up, and this could be just consolidating. Ideally, like to see it pop up, pull back, have a decent correction, high low, after we push through this. I don't know if you can see this resistance zone around, was it high of 82, say 30 or 40, or 83. So if it gets up through 83, pulls back, builds a high low, that could be worth looking at for a run up through, potentially up to 90 or through 90. But we'll see. All right, ILU. Oh, does it keep going back? Yeah, CVN. So don't forget this sort of move or this action. I'm happy just to sit on cash at the moment because I don't feel that we've proven either way. We haven't really proven just yet that we're heading higher on the ASX. We haven't either. On the flip side, we haven't proven that we're falling out of the sky just yet. But all the market does, like in the action yesterday, was just clean out a few. It's just cleaning out stops. A lot of opportunity taken just to clear people out, put them on the sidelines, and then you just have to wait and see whether it's worth getting back in again. Yeah, but see the end. I've had my eye on that since we got out, I think a while ago. And let's just type it in. See again. It's not looking so great at the moment, is it? 41.5. If we can just get that in, what does it keep changing? That there with this push up through, we didn't close through 47.5. We didn't clear it out, pull back, potentially lower high coming into play now, which in all honesty, it doesn't mean that this trend is over, that we're going to head down anywhere here. It could mean that we're just, one, two, clean out a few more through 40, even trade through 40, which is just taking out this low at 40.5, clean them out. What that's going to do is dragging it. It's going to trigger a few stops, and then it could potentially pop up again, build to higher low, and then go. We'll just have to wait and see on this one on CVN. But really, the way that it didn't close above that high at 47. We just cleaned them out. We got to 47.48, 1 cent, closed back below that high, and then we sold off since. It's not leaving me too confident in jumping back in just yet. And we could just be, after this run up here, this pullback, we've got support in place and we've got resistance in place around, say, 47.5 and down towards 31 is support through here. We could just range. We could range through there and do nothing, oscillate between highs and lows or between support and resistance and do nothing for a while. It's going to take a while to play out, I'd suggest, but this price action the last few days, we've even got a little, if you can see this minor lower high just here at around 45. So I wouldn't be too bullish on this one just yet. I'd be licking your wounds there, Pete, and just see how it goes. Paul, I was meant to say too, I will get back to your email. And I just remembered then and I forgot. So I'll probably put it up in the results there for you. You know what I'm talking about, I'm guessing. All right, let's get on to ILU. First cab off the ranks. Aluka. That daily chart doesn't say anything to me just at the moment, apart from we're hovering around oversold. Hovering at oversold is no reason to buy just yet. If you keep bear that in mind. That who's got Lauren ILU? Long or short? What are you looking at? See how ILU's got a lot of that sort of price action that we could be stuck. We're obviously finding resistance at 12. We've got further selling at 12 through 12. We had that little pop up here, touched it a few times, then started selling off again, got down to 5, made a big run back up to 12, found selling pressure again back at 12. So obviously, longer term sellers haven't finished just yet. Anyone that's potentially holding it has been for years. It hasn't, or they're either not out, or the people that bought it up through here are finding maybe anyone that thought it was going back up to the highs. What was that? The good old days around $18 has been disappointed, and then we got selling back down here. Now we did get some buyers stepping back in at 7, so this move down was broken as soon as we got through. Basically, that you can see that green candle, that high at 9.13. So in anticipation that potentially this is going to be a higher low on your weekly chart, but it's just this recent action on your daily that I'm not too convinced with yet. It just looks heavy. Every time it pops up, it's got up here. It's broken through that. What do we say, $9 or 9.12 or what it was? with this move up here. So that's broken that trend down. Once that anchor's broken to that leg down, okay, we're either looking for consolidation or we're looking for a new move up. And at the moment, it doesn't look like it's a new move up. It's, again, finding resistance at lower levels around 975. You can see market's going from overbought to oversold, and it can't get back up. Last time we oversold, we're up here. Before that, that's probably not a good example, but before that, lower high. So if you're just looking for those swings, what we could be looking at is, okay, it's finding pressure at 975. Okay, on the flip side, we've come down to oversold. We didn't get down to the previous zone where we were oversold around $7. So, okay, that's a positive. But I'd be looking for a higher low. I'd be looking for a pop up followed by a higher low. And then all that would come into play with the weekly chart, that weekly higher low there. Is that making sense? I hope it's making sense anyway. So if we can draw that up, where are we? Here we go. Let's see if I can remember what I was saying. So you've got a base, a major base through here. It's spent a lot of time. You got major resistance up around, well, not very good with this mouse, around $12 mark. This is a leg down here, which is just broken with that little pop through there. So we're interested to see whether this is a long-term higher low and whether we start building, because on the weekly, this is just a move up. This is a good little corrective action. Okay, I'll draw that in a different color. I want to color code red. Just say that's the leg up we're interested in. All we're doing is really taking a bit of heat out of that leg up. And as long as we hold above 7, we can go down as far as you want. So what we're trying to look at is if this is the price action is going to play out. We've done this type of price action, 2-legged move down, still holding up above this low at 7. And from there, I'd ideally be watching to see if we can just build that maybe higher low. It might contract a bit, who knows. Whoops, a higher low off there. So that confirms that, okay, $8 is in play. It confirms this leg up we're starting, which means that potentially we're looking up to 12. And because this is a major high low at 7, we could be blasting through 12. All right. This might be the time that we're starting to play out of it with a big move through 12. Don't know just yet, but that's something that by breaking down all the charts and breaking down the price action, this is what I'd like to see on my weekly. Higher lows hold essentially around maybe around 9, between 950, say. I want these higher lows to hold off your weekly and just see what happens. And then maybe you can drill down to your daily potentially for a entry setup. If you get down to your daily chart, again, we're found, so the market's, here, that was an alarm going off. So yeah, we found some selling pressure at 975. That's why we had to have a deeper correction to say 825. But you want to see, okay, is that deeper correction enough to confirm this weekly high low and start the procession higher to take us through 975 up to 12? We don't know just yet. So even the daily is not showing us any hard and fast signs just yet. So one to keep an eye on, I'd say. Long-winded effort, long-winded explanation. What was next? CVN. Luca Long. Euro. All right, Bobby. It's a challenge, is it? Not that I do too much currencies. We'll just see what the euro. What am I looking for? I'm going to find it now. I'm just going to find what's this? Let's just see if I've got it up there. Was it EuroCAD? There we go. Let's start off on the weekly, see if we can build ourselves a picture. Ideally, not too bad. We probably don't need to draw it too much up here. So on the weekly, where I would really be interested. All right, let me clear all this out. Get away, IG. That's what happens when you don't pay for a version. Now, start from scratch. So we've got this high coming into play. and we've got an inside level coming into play. We've also got a nice little bid zone, it looks like, coming into play. So it's whether or not this bid zone is going to hold up. We're going to start holding high lows, and we're going to start working our way up to 155, say 75, or through this high up towards the high at 161. So, all right. So we've still got that is pretty much what I'd be looking at here. Whether or not that's going to play out. Yeah, that chart actually you can probably extend that all the way down here, can't you? So that to me doesn't look too bad on the weekly chart. Oh, here we go. So I'm just seeing things left, right, and center. Even if you extend that right across, it is a previous minor level, and you can see all this. This could be massive base building. Who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on it. If we drill down now to the daily to see if anything stands out, just to build our picture. Okay, we've got a zone, another zone just in here. That's going to come into effect. So we haven't quite pushed up, or we haven't confirmed. You can see the market, the action. We still sort of got these lower highs holding and potential high lows holding. So we're squeezing. We come into that point of agreement where you want to, if we break out through a high, a lower high, then potentially it's a buy with your stop below the most recent higher low. If we head this way, maybe taking it through 150, 160, say, with your stop below this little minor high low at 149.80, or reverse, sell through 149.80 with your stop somewhere around 150, 135 or so. Right? I know that's actually quite a big stop, but you know what I mean. We're still contracting on the daily chart. We haven't really confirmed either way. I just like this longer term bid zone here. So for me, I think there could be a nice squeeze up, but we'll just have to see. Have to wait and see. If we go down, drop it down a bit more, maybe there's something else. If we go down to an hourly chart, for instance. Yeah, it's still, you can see that it's just pure whip. So at the moment, I would be trading off the edges, until we get some sort of confirmation. And it's probably, trading off the edges here, maybe a sell up here, potentially, if we head down to this zone, get out. I don't want that, do I? Get out. All right, does that make sense? So in all that picture we built, we're contracting here on the daily. We haven't come off that massive bid zone just yet, and then we've got a little minor bid zone here at around say just below 150, potentially buying off a higher low that build, we might spike down to that zone, build off a higher low, and just sort of range trade it more than anything else. And if I ideally probably look into I'd probably be sticking to the buy side because I'll be biased up more on this one than anything else, especially if the US dollar rallies. You got the euro coming off. I don't know what the Canadian dollar is doing, but that's probably a bit too intricate for me. Does that make sense there, Bobby? Yeah, longer term, I'm not seeing we're not in a clear trend. We're consolidating. We're even contracting. The buyers are still in force and the sellers are still in force. So really, until you get some sort of break, either way, we haven't got a clear direction. So until there's a clear direction, I'd be, if you can you might drop it right down, I don't know, say a 30-minute chart. I wouldn't buy it here and I wouldn't sell it here either. But just for me, I'd ideally, I think it might be, no, let's skip that. Where am I? Yeah, until we see something play out, market pops up, builds a higher low, something like this. There's not really many high lows. Then I would be steering clear of it just for now. Yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. All right, where am I? Get rid of that. So what was next? We had Sun. CUV, that comes a huge though. US FDA approval. CUV, we'll have a look at that. All right, let's get on the Sun. Yeah, you can see consolidation through here on the daily. So really for me, until we get up or down out of that, the consolidation over the last few months, I wouldn't say from the start of the year, we're not trending at the moment. We're not doing anything. There's no momentum. Get onto the weekly. You've got highs which are rejected this previous high right through here at around the 1550 mark was rejected. We've come straight back down and took out these previous lows. So all in all, just off this weekly chart, if you look at it from a bearish point of view, yeah, there's a good argument to say we could be breaking out down through 13, trading towards 12, or potentially down to 1050. And all that's because essentially you've got a massive double top. You've even got 3 tests this high. I hope we can see what was. So this is just, I've got the bear hat on at the moment. Where am I? I want that again. So you can see this zone through here, 1950. You could argue that's a little washout there. And then we've taken out, I'll draw that a bit closer to the support. We've taken out these lows, in this one foul swoop here. So you can see the market's basically headed up. Here should get through the highs. If granted, that was probably about September, October last year when the whole market sold off. But we've washed out these lows as well. So it'd be interesting to see whether we're capped at around, say, that $14 mark. But in the moment, that was just going back to that daily congestion or daily consolidation around between, was it 13 or 14? There is argument to say we're going to stick to the MAs here and we're going to head south, or, we're going to hold this as a high or low and we're going to press up, and then this is a washout. Does it all make sense? So right, for me, I'll be waiting for a break either way. And if it comes out the bottom, then I'll be a bit concerned that all this is going to be major sell zone. No one's showing interest until we reset. We could be going all the way back down to the bottom end there, $10. You don't know just yet. But if we break out here, then this comes into play as a higher low. This zone through here as a higher low on the weekly. Okay, and that is starting to play out. And then that's not technically just a washout, but it's clearing the way for a new leg up. But that's only up until we get through, I would suggest, that $14 mark. Okay, so we can pop up through 14. Yeah, okay, that brings into play. Then I'll be just looking to pull back, high, low, go. And then looking to buy. All right. Sorry, guys, it looked like we... All right. All right, so I guess everyone can hear me. Why can't I? So was my screen not changing? Could be just me. So you should not on. Come on. Come on. Gotta admit, proud of good old Optus. I think everyone's just as useless as each other. All right. We're all good. Sorry about that, guys. It must have been mine. I'll just dropped out and come back again. All right, we're good. So we've got QBE up on the screen now. All right, so QBE, don't particularly mind that. I think it's more longer term. Actually, very long term. I think obviously it's pretty clear. We've had a big run up over years, big pullback. $10 seems to be the line in the sand at the moment. We haven't really. This is a monthly chart, by the way. We haven't got up through. I think 14 is good on the monthly is a clear sort of winner. Weekly, we're probably going to find some resistance up around that 1350 mark. So yeah, just breaking it down from monthly to weekly, I wouldn't be buying just yet. For me anyway. But it's good that the good thing is we've had that just coming into that sell off in October at 1150. We chopped around 1150 and sold off, held up off the lows, and once we bounced with the whole market turned around and bounced, we've taken out those highs at 1150 and we traded up to 13. So it's a bit of some good positive signs there. On the daily, if you're going to buy it on the daily, I would just wait. That's a good healthy trend up. we are into that 1350 mark where we could easily start to find some chop like this, like we've seen previously, like we see here just before a big sell-off. So I think this leg up hasn't really corrected very much at all. So if we start chopping around and we can't quite get through that 1350 mark convincingly or 13 convincingly, then I'd be just wary of that we're going to have a good sell-off and then start to build on the weekly and build a high low on the weekly and then blast up through. But overall, that I like this price action starting to curl up. It's just that we haven't got any. I think this is your first 1350 mark. Is probably, you could argue this is your most recent lower high we got through. So if that's the case, yeah, it was turned bullish, but the daily's not shown that just yet. Just have to wait and see. Just for now, I think if we can hold in here and start to break up, take a breakout trade, so through, was it 13 to 13.25 with your risk below 12.75, to see if we do get up to 13.50. If not, it's going to struggle. That volume, you can see the volume here with this move up is a lot higher than what we're getting now. So just be wary that volume is starting to ease off as we get up to the highs. May mean that the buyers are starting to step aside or just holding off for now. All right. Yeah, Wally. Are you just teasing me there, Lauren? Where are we now, Wally? Stop looking at it once. So anyone doesn't know, we were short this. See this little spike here? We got stopped out by about 7 cents, and then boom. So we held the short right from here, tightened it up about, it's a clear level. I thought you're starting to get high lows in here. Just go back. So we had our short somewhere in here, I think 1440. I think it was just here. It was looking good about this stage, and then it went sideways. It absolutely went sideways. It just turned on a dime, looking like it was going to sell off. Went sideways for the good part of the last few months. Took us out here and a positive move through the previous highs, and then boom, straight down. So it is looking bearish now, but yeah, it's just annoying when that happens. Anyway, that is life. It is looking weak still. You're right, Lauren. It's still looking weak. But if that's the case, and I'm going to try to reduce risk, I would pull back on risk, especially on the short side. I'd rather see this little minor higher low. I'd like to see it hold below 14 and then take out, what is it, this low at 13.28. And then I could reduce my risk, probably lock in the gain at least. But we'll have to see. This could just be a washout we need of this zone here before we take off. I mean, who knows just yet. Either way, it's annoying. But if you short that, I would just be a bit tight on your risk of all these. So what do we got? What do we got next? Let me just go back. Where's my mouse? CUV. All right, CUV. I do like that. See this pattern here is starting to repeat. So if that's the case, we're going to get a higher low on the weekly sooner or later, something like this. So I guess not much to talk about there, Darren. That was, fundamentals are good, FDA approval. So I would ideally, we just keep an eye on that one. I think, look, technically the weekly, even the daily looks great. Going to the weekly, it is getting a bit extended up here. Maybe we need more of a complex correction here or a bit more price action to play, like we saw coming into the end of the last year. But yeah, that looks great. I would not buy it right now because it can easily, I mean, who's to know who's in, who's out, what everyone else's thoughts are. But until we start getting some sort of buyers and sellers starting to fight it out and the price come into that point of agreement, and then once we get that breakout of a point of agreement, like we saw back in December last year, yeah, I would just be waiting. I'll be watching this one, but very much if we draw that up, I do think it looks really good. Actually, look at that. There's a few things. Look, no, don't do that. So here's, ideally what you'd be looking at. This kind of price action played out nicely. You got this little break up here. That's what we want to repeat. Even if, you're very tentative, you could have bought breakout just here, probably a bit more aggressive than what I'm normally at. But I think After this 1, 2, you can see pop up here. It's pressed down. We hold a higher low here, pretty much consolidated. I think it's fair to say your entry back in December could have been that breakout, say through, was it $20, with your stop just below that, somewhere below the high low. So if we're going to get something similar, we just have to see, okay, heads up, something's happening, obviously. So maybe that's a contraction. I'd say just by eyeballing that now, that buyers are in control. And you've got one big washout there, secondary move down off a lower high, and really just resuming that trend potentially. So I'll be looking for price action like that. Maybe if we can just draw that up. Say we've done that there, and we're about here. Whoops. If we get something like that, we try to retest, but it gets bought up at higher levels. Then you start putting in a clear base. Then I'll be looking for a buy on the break of a lower high. Say, if we can get something like that play out over the next few days or weeks, then that could be a cracker for a run up through 30, and on we go. Wait and see, and just look at this volume too. It's slightly easing off, but compared to through here, which was this sell-off here, the volume's quite light. It just means that buyers weren't ready there, and there's no buying standing in the way of that sell-off. But now you can see buyers starting to step up. There is a bit of selling volume still, but with this little rally here, it's been supported by bigger volume. So for me, it's all about this setup at the moment. Get some high lows coming into play. CV, is that about it? All you've gone through that. All right. So we'll see. So that's about it. I think we've got through everything there. NEC. Let's just see if Lawrence got something on us there. I like the way it's coming up here on the daily, but in conjunction. Yeah, look, you could be looking up to 220 quite easily. Where it broke down from. On a very long-term view, that is pretty much everything, isn't it? 9. I personally don't like that sort of down up, just because when you look at the weekly, we're starting to get extended up here. As we, last time we're extended, if you go across, we're extended up here, we're way up towards that 250 mark. Now we're around 190. So for me, that's not the best of signs. There has been some good volume coming in here, but when there is some good volume, it could be distribution. Anyone that's been long for a while just wants out, don't know why. Maybe, people that were buying in here and we got the big sell-off have held it, and as we get a bit stretched potentially up here, they're just getting out. Who knows what? But at the moment, for me, that price action just on the weekly is not looking too crash hot. If you're on the daily, if we sit on top of this 180 zone on top of the MAs and we start to lift again, then you know exactly where you're going to put your risk. Potentially for that move up towards 220 or even back into this zone from 230 to 50. And then, you could easily have 2, 3 to 1 trade on that without risking too much. So basically, let's just draw that up. We'll probably finish it here. Whoops. So what I mean, we've got this trend up here. We've still got the MAs are up. Everything's looking good on the daily. It's just not so good on the weekly. We're starting to get a bit stretched up here, up towards potentially, that you can say back up towards those highs. We're starting to get a bit stretched here. So whether the market needs, we just don't have enough buying pressure. We need to clean out a few. The sellers haven't quite finished just yet. Whether there's another sell down, clean out a few of those late buys just in here. But then you get, the bigger punters or the bigger funds starting to step in a bit earlier. 140 to 150 and just starting to build a big position. And then you got your major high low, and then I think that's got more room for the upside. But at the moment, it's just the way it's come down and it's grinding back up. Just remember the ASX 200, the way it did that, in October, sold down hard, started to grind up, and then we had that big sell-off. I'm not saying that's the same thing, but that's the kind of price action you're up against. This is not buying conviction. This is more sellers are just waiting to pop up and unloading. And every time it comes back, you get those buys and the selling sort of dissipates a bit. Does that make sense? So this price action here of what we see in this rally back up is completely different to what you see back here. So this here is no one standing in the way of selling, the buying pressure, and they just boom, chasing it up, fear of missing out. All of a sudden you get consolidate through those highs, can't go on with it, start get lower highs coming to play. As sellers starting to who have held it through here or even back here, getting out through here. Anyone that's bought it through here may be holding it, who knows? And then you get into this different dynamics between the buyers and sellers as opposed to what we saw back here. So that is not conducive of a bull market for me. So I'll just be keep an eye on that for now. All right, I think that's probably about it at the moment. Isn't it? Got through a bit there. All right, hope that's that worked out okay. What the hell was that? All right, let's just minimize that. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining me. Hopefully everything works its way out and we're good for Monday again without any too many issues with the internet. But if not, I'll try to figure it out earlier just to make sure it's going to work out, and then I will just have to do the same thing, do it through the mobile, and just have the computer set up the TV. I think it worked out okay. I know everything's working, so got the backup plan. So hopefully we should be back in on Monday at 12:30. Sorry about the inconvenience yesterday and today, and the buffering problems we've still had today. I think that's just a dropout. It's just a funny signal coming through through the 4G network, but it's probably still a bit shaky at the moment. But anyway, thanks very much for joining me, guys. We'll see how this week goes. Remember, just be careful of any sort of further news headlines that comes out on trade deal. I mean, if he comes out and says anything else, then God forbid we could have another big sell-off. If Trump comes out, he might turn around and flip on a dime and say, "Yep, it's all working out," and they come to some sort of agreement. I think China is still coming over to heading over to the US to continue the trade talks, and I think the US are keen to try to wrap it up sooner rather than later. But again, we just have to wait and see how it's. We obviously know the market is still looking towards the news on trade, and if it's not good, they're going to react quite harshly on the downside. So it just looks like the market is it's bullish, as in it's heading higher, but there's undertones of how far can we go, and any sort of cracks that could appear, we're quick to react and quick to get out. So just bear that in mind going forward. Just know where your risk is on every trade, where how you trade, whatever it is. Just know exactly where your risk is, and if you have to get stopped out, get stopped out, because you never know if we're going to do what we did back in. We'll just show you back, back here. We don't know if this is going to happen. We had this massive sell-off, or at least a big enough sell-off to head back down to 6,100. That's still big enough, or 59. You don't know. So yeah, just bear all that in mind and stay safe. And we'll see how it all goes the rest of the week. Might give some good conversational topics on Monday. Anyway, guys, cheers, and we'll see you then. Cheers, guys. Bye. Oh, sorry, Darren. I just saw your comment then. No, Ethereum was cancelled because it triggered the stop before the entry level. But in saying that, let me just see. I haven't even looked at, to be honest. Quickly see what's happening. That's not the one, is it? Ethereum. Yeah, come on, you slow coach. Day. Look, it's still looking okay. It's look, it hasn't triggered because this moved down. So what it was pretty much at that stage it was a buy stop through here, which has been triggered today. But the entry, the exit level would have been actually it was way back. It was up here. So we were looking for that higher low. And in essence, it sold off, triggered that level first, so cancel the order. Because at the moment we don't. If you're buying here, your stop ideally has to be, for me, right down here. So we'll see. I might have another look at it, but I think this price action is actually quite good. You got here first breakout. If we can get a pullback, buy into a decent, healthy pullback off a higher low, we know exactly where our risk is going to be, and then potentially that's the way to go. We'll see. All right, guys. Thanks very much. We'll speak to you again soon. Cheers.